television series Game of Thrones is a cultural phenomenon, an ensemble narrative that brings the many themes, thoughts, and philosophies of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire to life. Martin's books are a perfect example of Mikhail Bakhtin's polyphonic literature, novels of ideas that explore a spectrum of characters, relations, and morals. A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones are not hindered by a single one-dimensional conflict between good and evil, although variations of this conflict do exist within the texts. Rather, it is a woven latticework of characters who grow, struggle, suffer, and live with their own code of ethics.
Man's got to have a code.
Each character's role in the game is defined by these ethics and the actions they determine, whether they are altruistic or self-serving, honourable or ignoble, ice or fire. But in fact, most fall somewhere in between each dichotomy. In any text, it is often these types of characters that are the most gripping, and with fair reason to be. Their stories are multifaceted and thus more relatable to contemporary audiences. They are victims of contradiction and imperfection, the supposed human condition. One of the most interesting characters in the series with regards to this complexity is Stannis Baratheon. The younger brother of King Robert and the older brother of Prince Renly, Stannis is unlike either of his siblings. He is aloof and emotionless, lacking the charisma and passion of his brothers. As so put by Loras Tyrell,
Stannis has the personality of a lobster.
Stannis is a lonely character. Unlike Renly and Robert, who interact at King's Landing throughout Season 1, Stannis avoids contact with his brothers altogether. There is no doubt that he possesses undesirable traits. He admits that he never loved Robert.
My house that my beloved brother Robert left.
Wasn't my beloved brother? I didn't love him.
Resents his wife for failing to bear him a son.
And she's given you nothing. No sons.
And is generally disliked for his bluntness.
Hundreds will die. Thousands.
And uninspiring demeanour.
Charmless. Rigid.
No one wants you for their king.
While Stannis' general personality is unlikable, he holds a significant and unwavering belief in duty, justice, and the law of man. These traits form the foundation of honour, and thus they command a level of respect from characters who value such things.
If he gets what he wants, I expect he'll be a better ruler than the fools sitting on the Iron Throne the last 100 years.
There's only one reliable leader left in Westeros. Stannis.
Come with me and take this city!
This belief in duty and the admiration it inspires casts an important ray of light on an otherwise shadowy personality. So many characters throughout the series take up arms for vengeance, greed, or sheer cruelty, but Stannis fights to claim the throne because, rather admirably, he believes he has an obligation to exercise his right. Although Robert did not take it by right himself, but rather force. This is an important complication that helps justify the War of the Five Kings, but nevertheless it is a complication that Stannis doesn't see. Like Ned Stark and Barristan Selmy, he only sees his duty to the realm. Although Stannis' sense of duty is commendable, it not only breeds stubbornness, but is accompanied by a fanatic religious belief as well. Since encountering the Red Priestess Melisandre, Stannis has come to believe that he is the prince that was promised, the rebirth of legendary figure Azor Ahai.
You should kneel before your brother. He's the Lord's chosen. Born amidst salt and smoke.
Born amidst salt and smoke. Is he a ham?
Stannis' belief in this prophecy is legitimate and leads him to justify abhorrent behaviour in the name of the Lord of Light, as necessary to achieve his destiny. He breaks his marriage vows after Melisandre promises him a son, a bizarre shadowed demon that takes his face and murders Renly. He takes blood from his bastard nephew Gendry in the name of R'hllor, and burns heretics in ritual sacrifice to the Red God. In his most despicable and infamous act, he sacrifices his own daughter, Shireen. In a world of dragons, icemen, and apparently immortal red ladies, Stannis can be excused for his beliefs, although his actions speak for themselves. But to Stannis, destiny and duty are synonymous. He himself admits,
I never asked for this, no more than I asked to be king. We do not choose our destiny. We must do our duty, no. Great or small, we must do our duty.
Whilst this doesn't excuse his actions, it does provide an insight into Stannis' own justification, which prevents him from being simply labelled as a cold-blooded psychopath, and complicates an analysis of his character. Although it does little to counteract each relative bad deed, Stannis is often hinted at having a softer, more compassionate side. He admits his affair to his wife Selyse, extends uncharacteristic leniency to Renly in their parley, and displays love for his daughter.
And you are my daughter.
However reserved it may be. Explicit shots are also devised to demonstrate the remorse felt for the death of his brother and daughter. Additionally, it is Stannis and his army that comes to the aid of Castle Black, a venture formed not only from a desire to set his so-called destiny into motion, but also from a genuine belief in serving and protecting the realm. Just as Melisandre inspires the darker side of Stannis' character, Davos Seaworth, perhaps his one true friend, represents and encourages moral decency within Stannis, acting as the antithesis to Melisandre's own influence.
What do you believe?
He won those bannermen from Renly. Don't lose them to her.
Davos is kind, respectful, and at times humourful. This complicates the audience's reading of Stannis, as Game of Thrones demonstrates on so many occasions. Odd couple pairings are effective at revealing or suggesting a different side to a character's otherwise established personality.
You knew I'd counselled restraint. You came to hear me say it because you believe it yourself. You're not a man who slaughters innocents for gain or glory.
Melisandre and Davos operate as a motif reminiscent of Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, the angels on shoulders that signify an inner struggle. Stannis is a character who contradicts himself, as so often in the world of Game of Thrones, being dutiful and being good are contradictory qualities, a reality Stannis acknowledges.
I hate a good many things, but I suffer them all the same. Sometimes a person has to choose. Sometimes the world forces his hand. Hard truths cut both ways, said Davos.
This reality is troubling to a man that speaks so often in absolutes, and the concept of duality haunts Stannis. His religion centres around the struggle between light and darkness, which the dimly lit interior of Dragonstone often parallels to a vivid chiaroscuro effect. Indeed, Stannis cannot even look at the face of his own daughter without seeing a clear binary. Stannis' development, like that of so many others throughout the course of the show, lacks the type of fairy tale conclusion many would assume from a fantasy genre text.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Part of what is so great about Game of Thrones and the book series it is based upon is that audience expectations for such things as a trademark happy ending are subverted in favour of grittier, more realistic narratives. Despite this, Stannis' final moments do retain elements of strange catharsis. He prepares to do battle with Ramsay Bolton, which is in itself something of a moral dilemma. The man who murdered his daughter versus quite possibly
Worst shit in the Seven Kingdoms!
Prior to the battle, Davos is sent away to prevent him interfering with the sacrificing of Shireen, and soon after this Melisandre herself flees. In one fell swoop, Stannis loses both halves of the very state that has come to define him, and Stephen Delane plays a shell of a man, resigned to his fate, but with this comes stoicism. Stannis faces impending death without a single complication. There is no good and evil left, no ethics and destiny, just duty. The fact that Brienne of Tarth kills Stannis to avenge Renly adds a further sense of catharsis, as does Stannis' last words to her.
Go and do your duty.
Stannis' downfall is read as a great justice, a quiet tragedy, or something more complicated is dependent on individual audience interpretation. But in my mind, that is what makes Stannis' narrative so effective. Here is a hero, bound by justice to claim what is rightfully his. A villain, compelled to commit atrocities for the sake of his supposed destiny. A man who dislikes waiting at the bank and has a tendency to correct grammar.
Less enemies for us.
Fewer. What?
Stannis is all of these things, and even though he's gone now, Game of Thrones remains populated with similar characters, products of a reality built less upon the black and white conventions of traditional storytelling than the grey melange that exists in the real world. Moral complexity resonates with an audience. It prevents predictability, encourages empathy, inspires critical thinking and deters passivity, and that is what a good character, what good entertainment, good art is all about.